What would you do if someone offered you $10 million to lick his wound? Would you do it, or would you run for your life? Sit back and learn a thing or two from this shocking story. Tiwa had just arrived on campus with a victorious smile on her face. Yes, she finally entered school after 6 years of waiting. Not because she couldn't pass her exams, but because her parents were poor. Tiwa was the first child of 6 children. Her mother was a hairdresser at the salon, while her father was a primary school teacher. Life back home was tough. Tiwa had to step down for her younger siblings to finish secondary school before she could pursue her university education, because her parents couldn't afford to pay everybody's school fees at the same time. But now that she was here, her feet touching the very soil of the school she had dreamt of for 6 years, she swore she was going to make the most out of it, academically, financially, and socially. Tiwa started class with her other classmates, and in just a few days, the other girls in her department started noticing the beautiful girl with the stylish braids in class, in the person of Tiwa. Tiwa's braids were unique, fashionable, and classy, different from what the other girls knew. Tiwa learnt hairdressing from her mother. In fact, she came from a long line of hairdressers, and transforming a lady's look into a diva with her hair was one of the things she was good at. Soon, all the ladies in the department started asking her about her hairstyles and where she had them made. And Tiwa, who was a smart money lover, took the opportunity to blow her own whistle, telling them she was the one who made the hairstyles by herself. The girls were impressed, and they started trooping into Tiwa's hostel room to get their braids done. In a matter of weeks, Tiwa's name was on everybody's lips as the girl with the magic fingers. Tiwa started earning small money to buy herself the fancy things she had always had eyes for. One day, as Tiwa was about leaving the lecture hall after her lectures had ended, a beautiful, classy, and rich-looking girl approached her. Her name was Debbie. "Hello, Tiwa," she said, smiling sweetly. Tiwa was first thrown off balance by surprise at the sight of the person standing before her. Not just standing, but saying hello to her. It was Debbie, one of the richest girls on campus. She and her friends drove the most expensive cars and wore designers as if it were ordinary singlet. Tiwa nervously replied, "Hello, Debbie, good afternoon," she greeted. So I heard about you and your magic hands for braids, and I don't know if you'll be free to come make my hair in my apartment this weekend. I'm tired of this Vietnamese human hair. I want a fresh look," Debbie said. Chai, even the way she spoke was classy. Who is her father self? Her perfume wants to blind my nose, Tiwa thought to herself, and she quickly replied, "Okay, this weekend, I'm free this weekend. You will give me your address so I can enter transport and come early so we can start early," Tiwa said. "Oh, don't worry. I will send a driver to pick you up by 7 a.m. Saturday morning. Is that okay?" Debbie said as she brushed a lock of her expensive human hair away from her face. "Here, type your number here," Debbie said as she handed Tiwa her iPhone 16 Pro Max. "Chai, see machine," Tiwa muttered under her breath. "God, where no," as she typed in her phone number into Debbie's phone. That evening, Tiwa couldn't stop thinking about Debbie, about how she looked rich and classy. She could still perceive Debbie's perfume on her palms from when she held her iPhone. Tiwa wished she was like her. She wished her parents were rich like Debbie's parents. But were Debbie's parents really rich? Let's find out. Saturday morning came, and truly a driver came to pick Tiwa from her hostel to Debbie's house. Tiwa couldn't stop staring at the lush cushions and sleekness of the car. The air condition nearly dried her blood like iced fish, as she had never experienced something like that before. Despite the chilling air inside the car, Tiwa couldn't complain, so the driver would not call her a village girl. When they arrived at Debbie's flat, Tiwa's mouth dropped to the floor in surprise. The entire house was luxurious, like the houses in movies. The furnitures and electronics were given premium quality. The air condition was blasting with full force, making Tiwa shiver with cold. As she was admiring the space, Debbie walked into the living room wearing a robe, her body still wet from the shower. "Hello, Tiwa. I'm glad you came, oh. I have a party to attend tonight. I hope we can finish before evening. I want my hair to be perfect." "No problem. I'll be very fast, and I will make a very fine style for you," Tiwa replied, shivering from the cold from the air conditioner. Tiwa, are you sick? You are shivering," Debbie asked with concern on her face. "No, Auntie Debbie, it's the AC. It's very cold. I used to catch cold easily," she said. "Oh, I'm sorry. I will turn it off now," Debbie said as she turned off the air condition. "Do you feel better now?" "I'm sorry I'm such a bad host. What do I offer you? Champagne, juice or tea?" Debbie asked, but Tiwa shook her head in the negative. "Oh, okay. Then let me quickly change into something more befitting so we can start," she said as she disappeared into one of her luxurious bedrooms. A few moments later, Debbie emerged and Tiwa started braiding her hair in the living room. After a couple of minutes, they heard a knock on the entrance door, and it was two of Debbie's rich friends, Sophia and Amaka. They entered the living room and both sat on the couch with excitement on their faces. "Babe, tonight's party will be hot. All the big fishes are coming. Omo, I have to look my best to catch a big client, oh," Sophia said. "Yes, so we all need to bring our A game to get fresh clients. Our old clients are no longer paying well as before," Debbie said. Talking about old clients, Amaka, how far your meeting with Chief? "You haven't given us any gist yet," Debbie asked. "My sister, that one. Can you imagine that old man? He paid me 700k instead of the 1 million we agreed. He claimed to have exceeded his transfer limit. Can you imagine?" Amaka said with irritation. "Ladies, that's why we can't miss this party," Sophia said. Tiwa stood there braiding Debbie's hair, but her ears stood like antenna, collecting all the juicy gist. And what shocked her was how these girls called millions like it was water. She was curious to know what they did for a living. That evening, Tiwa did her magic again with Debbie's hair. It pleased Debbie and her friends, and they complimented Tiwa for how the hairstyle turned out. That evening, Debbie gave Tiwa 100,000 naira for braids, something she had never seen before. All the other female students paid her 3k each for braids, and there she stood with a bundle of new notes. Tiwa was happy that she nearly knelt down to greet Debbie. That evening, the driver that brought her in the morning took her back to her hostel. When she got to her hostel room, Tiwa couldn't stop thinking about Debbie and her friends. The 100,000 naira she got from just a few hours of braiding hair was her father's monthly salary. That night, she made it her mission to find out Debbie's source of wealth and join in herself and elevate her life and family. For the next couple of days, Tiwa couldn't get her mind off Debbie's matter and her rich friends. But what surprised her was that Debbie and her friends didn't show up for classes the whole week. Where could they have gone? Were they in trouble? She thought to herself as she looked out for them every day in class. The next weekend, Debbie called Tiwa. "Hello Tiwa, how are you?" Debbie said on the phone. Auntie Debbie, I'm fine, no. How are you? I didn't see you in class all week. Hope you are fine," she asked with concern. But Debbie only chuckled lightly. "Tiwa, I'm fine. I went for a business trip in Dubai for a few days, but I'm back now. Can you come and make my hair tomorrow Sunday? I have an important meeting with a very important client and I want fresh looks," Debbie said. Yes, so Auntie Debbie, I'm free tomorrow. I'll come tomorrow morning." "Okay, good. I'll send my driver over," Debbie said as she hung up the call. The next day, Debbie's driver picked Tiwa from her hostel to Debbie's apartment where she braided her hair. That day, Debbie gave Tiwa another 100,000 naira, and for the next couple of months, Tiwa braided Debbie and her friend's hair every week. She drove the other students who paid 3k away, focusing on the big bucks. After a while, Tiwa made up her mind to ask Debbie the nature of her job and also beg her to show her the way. One day, after Tiwa was done braiding Debbie's hair, Debbie offered her the usual 100k for her services, but that day, Tiwa rejected the money. Why now? You don't want to accept payment for your services? Debbie asked with confusion on her face. No, Auntie Debbie, Tiwa replied. Then what is it? Is the money too small? Do you want me to add to it? You can tell me. No, Auntie Debbie. The thing is, don't be angry, but there's something I want to talk to you about. Talk to me about? What's up? Tiwa crossed her mind and went for the dive. Auntie Debbie, you see, I'm from a poor home. I'm the first child. My parents are suffering at home. And Debbie asked that she was feeling impatient already. Auntie Debbie, Tiwa said as she knelt down before Debbie. Please show me the way. I want to be like you. You and your friends are so rich. I want to also be rich. Please help me, Tiwa said as tears welled up in her eyes. Oh, please get up, Tiwa. Do you know the job that we do? Debbie asked and Tiwa shook her head in the negative. Okay, we are into the hospitality business. We take care of our clients' needs and they pay us for our services. You're a fine girl, but this business is very risky. I don't think I would want to introduce another girl to this business, Debbie said with seriousness on her face. Tiwa begged Debbie with tears streaming down her face, narrating her family history to Debbie. But Debbie shook her head. Tiwa, face your studies. This job is not for everybody, Debbie said. But Tiwa, who was determined to get rich by all means possible, didn't give up. She begged profusely, and after minutes of back and forth between the ladies, Debbie said, Okay, Tiwa, I will think about it and let you know my reply. Thank you, Auntie Debbie. Thank you, Auntie Debbie. God bless you. God bless you, Tiwa chanted with gratitude. For the next couple of days, Tiwa waited for Debbie's call anxiously, checking her phone every minute for a call or even a message. And after days of excruciating wait, Debbie called one morning. Hello, Tiwa. I have thought about what we discussed the other day, and I also spoke with my boss. She would love to meet you. So get ready tonight. I'll pick you up by 7 p.m. After that call, Tiwa leaped for joy. He felt like she had just won a lottery. That day, she didn't go for lectures. She carefully picked out her nicest outfit for the meeting. And at exactly 7 p.m., Debbie was waiting in her car outside Tiwa's hostel. Tiwa hopped on the car with excitement, and Debbie began in a low but serious voice. Tiwa, you know you can still change your mind and go back, right? But after this meeting today, there is no going back home. This is a very serious business. Any mistake can cost you your life, Debbie warned sternly. But Tiwa, who was too excited at the prospect of becoming rich by any means possible, ignored all Debbie's warnings. That night, Debbie blindfolded Tiwa's eyes with a cloth so she wouldn't know where they were headed or the direction to the place. After minutes of driving, the car suddenly stopped and Debbie took off the blindfold from Tiwa's eyes. Tiwa couldn't believe the sight in front of her. It was a gigantic mansion. She wondered if people lived inside. Shortly afterwards, Debbie led Tiwa inside the mansion and asked her to take a seat while they waited for their boss. And after an hour, a fierce-looking chubby woman with cheeks that were larger than life itself entered the living room. Immediately, Debbie stood up straight and greeted, "Good evening, Mama." Mama? Was she Debbie's mom? Tiwa wondered, but she quickly stood up and greeted the woman, who had a perpetual scowl on her face as if she had just licked lime. How are you, Debbie? Have a seat. Is this the new girl you told me about? Yes, Mama. She's fine and she's clean too. Did you tell her about our modus operandi? Yes, Mama, I did, Debbie replied. Okay, girl, stand up, Mama said, directing her gaze towards Tiwa. Tiwa stood up abruptly, intimidated by the fierce look from Mama. Step forward, she said with a commanding voice that had Tiwa shaking. Turn around, she commanded. Mama scanned every inch of Tiwa's body and smiled. She's a catch, but she's very crude. She needs to be cleaned up. Debbie, that's your assignment for tomorrow. Take her shopping and have her cleaned up for tomorrow evening. Alhaji Sani needs company tomorrow evening, Mama said. And you, young girl, are you a virgin? No, ma. Good. Tomorrow evening is your first trial. Don't mess anything up for me, else I would mess up your entire life, Mama warned sternly. That night, Debbie blindfolded Tiwa's eyes again and took her all the way down to her hostel before she removed the blindfold. Instead of Tiwa to be afraid or wary of what she was getting herself into, she was excited. The next day, Debbie took Tiwa shopping for luxury clothes, shoes and hairs. She took her to the spa and gave her a complete makeover. Tiwa stared at her reflection in the mirror, and the person that stared back at her was beautiful and classy and rich. Yes, this is the real Tiwa, she muttered to herself. That night, Debbie dressed herself in one of the luxury items they bought earlier that day, and exactly 9 p.m. sharp, a black SUV parked in front of her hostel to pick her up for a meeting with Alhaji Sani. That night, Tiwa was also blindfolded and whisked away to an unknown destination, with her fate unknown too. What happens now? Will Tiwa make it back in one piece? Let's find out. That night, the driver drove her to a lavish mansion where her blindfolds were taken off. The driver ushered Tiwa into a luxury living room and said, "Ma'am, have a seat. Alhaji will be with you shortly. Do you need anything to drink or eat?" The driver asked in a calm and professional voice. Tiwa shook her head in the negative, as nervousness was eating her up from inside. She didn't know what to expect, but she was determined to see it to the end. She was determined to make it big. Shortly afterwards, a young man in his late 30s came downstairs wearing a white robe. "Hello," he said. "You must be the new girl," he said, smiling sweetly. Tiwa stared at him with shock and confusion on her face. She was coming to meet with Alhaji Sani, but the person that stood in front of her looked like Brother Sani instead of Alhaji. Was there a mix-up somewhere, or is Alhaji Sani his father? Tiwa thought to herself with a frown on her face. Alhaji Sani noticed Tiwa's internal conflict and said, "Are you disappointed to see me, or were you expecting someone different?" Alhaji Sani said as he laughed lightly. "No, sir. I thought I thought you were an old man." Alhaji burst into laughter. "Really? Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm not old, and please be free with me," he said, smiling. "Is this your first time?" "Yes, sir," Tiwa replied nervously. I can tell. Relax, I don't bite. I won't force you to do what you don't want to do," Alhaji Sani said. "If you want to leave, you can tell me. My driver will drop you off. If you want to stay, then you need to sign this document," Alhaji Sani said as he handed the document to Tiwa. "But know that once you sign the document, you are mine, and you will do anything I want," he said with seriousness. Fear gripped Tiwa for a moment, but she forced her fears to the back of her mind, willing herself to think about the money involved in the business. And without even going through the contents of the document, Tiwa appended her signature, signing her life away to Alhaji Sani. What happens now? What is the fate of Tiwa? Let's find out. After Tiwa finished signing the document, she handed it to Alhaji Sani, who smiled and said, "Good." Shortly afterwards, he took off his white robe, revealing just his white singlet and boxers. "Come here, Tiwa," he commanded. "Lick my wound," he said, as he patted his legs slightly. Tiwa froze in fear. This was not what she was expecting. Lick his wound? "Why, sir?" she asked. "Tiwa, no questions. Didn't you read the agreement on the contract?" Tiwa swallowed hard. No, she didn't read the agreement. She was too excited that she signed immediately. "Okay, Tiwa, I want you to lick my wound because it tickles and it helps me relax," he said, motioning to Tiwa to come closer. Tiwa couldn't move her legs from the spot she stood. She hadn't seen the wound yet, but her heart was already pounding vigorously inside her chest for what was to come. "Tiwa, Don't keep me waiting. You are mine now. Come here and do your job, Alajisani said as he was getting impatient. But Tiwa couldn't move. She was now shaking from fear. When Alajisani saw that she was not doing his bidding, he brought out a briefcase that was beside the chair he sat and opened it up, revealing new bundles of hard currencies. Tiwa, lick my wound and make me happy, and all my money is yours, he said, pointing to the briefcase filled with cash. And what do they say? That money answereth all things. Before you know, Tiwa started moving towards Alajisani. She was scared, but the thought of the money overshadowed all the fears in her mind. Tiwa came very close to Alajisani and knelt down before him. She took a closer look at the wound, but was surprised that it was not an open wound at all. It was more like big pimples covering his legs up to his belly. Tiwa sighed in relief. It wasn't as bad as she had expected. I will brush my mouth very well when I get home, she thought to herself as she got to work, licking and sucking. That night, Tiwa returned home with bundles of cash, not just cash but dollars. She felt on top of the world. She was rich. That night, she brushed her teeth and tongue 7 times to clean her mouth. But could brushing prevent what was to come? Let's find out. For the next couple of months, Tiwa's life took a dramatic turn for the better. Tiwa, the hairdresser, who did braids for students for 3K, was now living large, wearing expensive clothes, driving an expensive car, and living in a tastefully furnished apartment. Every week, she would meet with Alajisani and do her business with him, and in return get huge amounts of cash. One weekend, Tiwa decided to go home and visit her poor parents. She bought expensive wrappers for her mother, clothes and shoes for her father and siblings. When she got to their house, her parents were shocked to see their daughter, who left for school a while ago, returning home like a billionaire daughter. Tiwa, where did you get money to buy car and all these gifts? Have you started following bad friends? Her father asked with shock on his face. Daddy, no. My boyfriend is from a rich family. He gave me his car to be driving and bought all these gifts for me. Tiwa lied. Eh? Boyfriend? Tiwa, I didn't send you to school to follow rich boyfriend. I sent you to school to study. If you want to marry him, tell him to bring his family to come and pay your bride price and make it official, Tiwa's father said as she was suspicious of his daughter's sudden wealth. Tiwa, return these gifts to him. Tell him thank you for us, but no, we will not accept this gift. We might be poor, but we have dignity. When he pays your bride price, then we can accept his gift. And be very careful, my daughter. All that glitters is not gold. Tiwa felt bad that her father had rejected her gift, but her mother passed the back door and collected the gift without her husband's knowledge. Tiwa, my daughter, don't mind your father, eh? You know how he can be, him and his pride. This your boyfriend, tell him to come and see us soon, eh? Mama Tiwa said. Tiwa gave her mother large sum of money to upgrade her business and the house. After Tiwa returned back to school, she noticed that Alajisani hadn't called her for days, and days turned into weeks. Tiwa felt happy as she wasn't comfortable licking his pimples anymore. Good riddance, she said to herself. She had made millions from him alone, and that was enough for her to establish herself. She didn't need him anymore. But after a few days, things started going south. At first, Tiwa started noticing some rashes around her legs, to her thighs, up to her belly. She ignored it, thinking she must be reacting to the new skincare product that she just bought. But after some days, the rashes increased and they became rather uncomfortable and itchy. Tiwa went to the hospital to have them checked, and the doctor prescribed some antibiotics and ointment for the rashes. Tiwa returned home and did as the doctor had instructed, and in a few days, the rashes disappeared just as fast as it came. Tiwa was relieved and she went on with her life and new business. But after a few weeks, the rashes returned, but this time they were bigger, like big pimples, covering her legs up to her chest. The pimple were sore and more painful and made Tiwa very uncomfortable. She applied the ointment and antibiotics from her previous hospital visit, but her condition worsened. After a couple of days, Tiwa returned to the hospital where the doctor prescribed a new set of antibiotics and ointment. But Tiwa's pimples increased even after applying those antibiotics and ointment. And in just a few days, her pimples grew into boils, painful boils that made it difficult for her to sit, walk, or even sleep. Tiwa consulted different doctors and specialists, but her condition worsened, and after a few more days, her boils started bringing out pus with a strong offensive odor that made her entire apartment smelling like dead meat. One day, as Tiwa sat on the floor in the living room, her body frail from the excruciating pain she was in, her mind went to Alhaji Sani. Could it be that his pimples were highly infectious and she had contracted a strange disease from their encounters? Different thoughts flew through her head. At this point, she needed help as she was desperate. Every day, it felt like her life and her essence was being sucked out of her body by something dark. That day, she called Debbie for help. When Debbie got to Tiwa's apartment, the strong smell of dead meat was the first thing she noticed before her eyes landed on Tiwa, sitting on the floor, writhing in pain, her body frail. "Tiwa, what happened to you? What's that smell?" Debbie asked with worry on her face. "Debbie, I don't know. It started some months ago as rashes, but now it's about to take my life. I'm in pains. Debbie, please help me," Tiwa cried desperately and weakly. "But how? Did you catch a disease from a client? Didn't you use protection?" "I did, Debbie, but I think this has something to do with Alhaji Sani." "What about Alhaji Sani? What did you do with him?" Debbie asked. But Tiwa couldn't bring herself to tell Debbie what she did with Alhaji Sani. "Debbie, please help me find Alhaji Sani. I think he's responsible for this," she said, crying bitterly. "Tiwa, what did you do with Alhaji Sani? Talk now," she said as she was getting impatient. But Tiwa kept mute. "Tiwa, I don't know what to say, but I warned you about this kind of business, but you wouldn't listen. And as for Alhaji Sani, we can't just find him, as his identity is top secret in this business. Someone else linked Alhaji Sani to Mama, and we don't know him, or where he lives, or what he even does. We can't even trace him. That is the #1 rule in this business. Confidentiality, and you know it. My dear, I think you should call your parents for help, because this matter is getting out of hand," Debbie said as she hurriedly left Tiwa in her apartment alone. For the next couple of days, Tiwa tried to manage things on her own without involving her parents. She called different doctors to check on her at her house, but her situation got even worse. Her boy started decaying, leaving an open wound that smelled like rotten meat, and her strength was diminishing every hour of the day. At this rate, Tiwa knew she couldn't survive a few days without getting help. That day, she reached for her phone and called her parents for help. When her parents got to the address their daughter gave them, they were shocked and surprised at the lavish apartment their daughter lived, but they were met with a greater shock when they saw the state their daughter was in. Tiwa, their bubbly daughter, was sitting on the floor, her body weak and frail, her skin covered with strange wounds with smelling pus. "Ah, ayé mi o! Tiwa, kí ló dé?" her father exclaimed as fear gripped him. "Tiwa, what happened to you? What did you eat? Where did you go to?" her mother asked with panic as tears streamed down her face. "Mommy, Daddy, help me, help me." Tiwa cried weakly with the last strength in her body. That day, her parents chartered a taxi to take her to the hospital. But as soon as the taxi driver saw the state Tiwa was in and the smell oozing from her body, he rushed out of the apartment with fear and panic. "This one na dead body o. This one don't die already, they rotty already," he said as he drove off. Tiwa's parents desperately searched for a taxi to take their daughter to the hospital, but no driver wanted to carry a walking corpse on their vehicle. Tiwa had a car, but her parents couldn't drive, so the car was useless at that point. After hours of searching frantically, they finally found a good Samaritan who carried Tiwa on a vehicle to the hospital. When they got to the hospital, Tiwa was admitted and all manner of tests were carried out to ascertain the cause of her problems, but the results all came back clean. After spending days in the hospital with no improvement at all and Tiwa nearing death's door, her parents decided to take her to Baba Shola's house. Baba Shola was a great medicine man who knew his way around herbs. His house was close to Tiwa's family's house. When Tiwa's parents brought Tiwa to Baba Shola's house, she was very weak and could barely speak. Immediately Baba Shola sighted her. He shouted, "Ah, Iwo, abomination! This child has beaten more than she can chew. She has brought death with her own 2 hands." Baba Shola turned to Tiwa's father. "My friend, tell your daughter to confess what she had done to bring this disaster upon herself. She is already a walking corpse. She is already at death's door. My medicines and help will have no effect. Tell her to confess. Maybe the ancestors will forgive her and revive her. If not, prepare for her burial." Baba Shola dropped the bombshell. Tiwa's parents burst into tears and knelt down before Baba Shola, begging him to save their daughter. "Baba Shola, do something. Please help our daughter. There must be something you can do to help her. Please help us," they pleaded. But Baba Shola only shook his head in sorrow. "Greed has led your daughter here. Take her home and mourn your child," he said. That night, Tiwa's parents carried their daughter home with all hope lost. They begged their daughter to confess what she did, but Tiwa couldn't bring herself to say anything. She made a pact with Alhaji Sani not to say anything to anyone about their encounters. Days passed and Tiwa was indeed very close to death's door. One of her legs had completely decayed. Her breath was short and shallow. But that day, Tiwa started convulsing suddenly. Fear gripped her parents and they didn't know where to take their daughter to. Papa Tiwa carried his daughter out of their house in panic, with Tiwa's mother running behind them. They ran into a church that was just a few blocks away from their house, and luckily, the pastor was conducting a prayer session inside the church. Tiwa's parents rushed towards the altar with their daughter. "Pastor, please help our daughter," they begged with tears on their faces. Immediately the pastor sighted Tiwa. He shouted, "Death, not today, not under my watch. Leave this soul now. She has taken refuge under the shadow of the Almighty." The pastor immediately poured his bottle of anointing oil into Tiwa's mouth, and immediately Tiwa, who was convulsing with her eyes rolled to the back of her head, heaved a deep sigh of relief, as if a deep burden was just taken off her shoulders, and she regained her consciousness and saw herself sitting on a chair inside the church. "Child, what have you done? Confess your sins and be free of this death that is hovering around you to take your life. Confess your sins and be liberated from the covenant you have ignorantly made with death," the pastor said to Tiwa with soft eyes and voice. Tiwa looked around and she saw her parents crying bitterly, begging her to confess to save her own life. After minutes of hesitation, Tiwa opened her mouth and revealed everything that she did in school with Alhaji Sani and the other rich billionaires she met with. Her parents were shocked to their bones, but they were more concerned about their daughter's survival. That day, the pastor prayed for forgiveness for Tiwa and anointed her and told her to go and sin no more. "Child, all that glitters is not gold, and greed is the fastest way to doom. Contentment is great gain," he said, as Tiwa's parents carried their daughter home. 1 year later, Tiwa went back to school in clutches. One of her legs was severely affected that it couldn't be saved, so it had to be amputated. But Tiwa, who had seen hell for the past couple of months, was grateful to be alive. When she resumed classes, everybody stared at her, some with pity, others with an expression that she couldn't explain, but she ignored their stare. Later that week, she was told that Debbie and her rich friends suddenly disappeared from school and nobody had seen or heard from them since then. Tiwa wondered what had become of them, and she was grateful for her second chance at life, and she vowed to make the most out of it in the right ways possible. Hi lovelies, what do you think of this story? Let me know about your thoughts in the comment section below. The moral of this story is that contentment is great gain. There are no shortcuts to making wealth in life. Greed is the fastest way to doom. Share this story with your loved ones and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. And until I bring another juicy and interesting story your way again, bye for now.